We are live. Let's see, we're having trouble posting to LinkedIn. So, whatever, if you're on LinkedIn, it looks like it's not going to show. But regardless of, we are live here at CareQuest, and I am excited to have Val Walker join us. It's a very important topic of what we're going to be discussing. And what's interesting about starting a podcast is it's easy for your mind to sort of make you doubt yourself and wonder, why are you bothering? Is there anybody watching? Does anybody going to see it? But the goal and the purpose of the podcast is to put content out there in the world that whether someone sees it live or they see it tomorrow, they may see it 5 years from now, they may see it when I'm dead and gone. But the goal and the purpose is to truly share truth, share from the heart, to help families that are navigating difficult times in their life when it comes to caregiving and getting older and all that. So I want to bring Val in. So Val, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Yeah, it's good to see you. You've been having a lot going on lately, right?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Val, it was back in July when we
July
first did
27th.
we did our first show. And the way we originally met, you were actually reaching out for respite. And
Yes.
we were, started talking and tried to help connect some dots there to get some additional time and hours. But if you don't mind, just kind of give an overview of just how deep into caretaking you were with your mom. And when I got that message from you that your mom had passed, it was just a lot went through my mind. And of course, just talking to you, and I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show and share your experience of what it's been like. And I know that there's still some other stuff going on. I believe you're dealing with your sister's memorial and all, but just kind of, you know, give a let's back way up and just talk about when caregiving given began for your mom, how far back that goes, the decision you and your husband had to make. You actually brought her into your home, so just kind of do a recap of when that started and how deep into that role you took and how it affected you and your husband's life.
Absolutely. So I will say it originally started, we originally noticed signs back in December of 2018, going into January of 2019. And I was prepared to, at the time, she was still living in her home, but she was in a facility for rehab, a rehab facility. And the the facility explained to me that we would know the type of care that she would need, but she would need um, consistent care. So, way back in January of 2019, I had made a decision to go and be with her for 2 months. And then my sister, who's now deceased, was going to come for a month so that we could assess what was going on. However, some other things happened and she ended up having to be put in a facility in April of 2019. And so with that being said, once my sister passed, who was her guardian and conservator, then it became I always wanted to care for her and not to have her in a facility. But then of course the pandemic happened, and once my sister passed in 2022, in July of 2022, I began the process of becoming my mom's caregiver, and how to do that process to bring her to live with me and my husband, because that was always my goal. Was I always wanted to care for her, because I felt like family caring for you is the best care, with that, from my perspective. And with that being said, in October of 2023, actually, the way that I acquired my mom, she was sent to the ER by the facility that she lived in, and they didn't send any information with her. They just sent her, and she was there. And the hospital um, contacted, you know, a relative, and the relative contacted me, and I was already on my way down, and I checked her out of the ER.
Mm.
And when I checked her out and went and spoke with the facility, they thought she was still at the ER. So the
Wow.
way I acquired it, I didn't have a plan. It's like, okay, this is my mother and she deserves better care than this. Right. And so I told them I won't be bringing her back. And so I didn't
Right.
take her back from that day.
From that day.
From that day, I didn't take her back. I had gotten a hotel room. It was on a Sunday. My husband and I, we jumped up, went down to South Georgia, got to the ER, talked to the doctors. She had fallen and had a black eye, a gash. I mean, she was in pretty bad shape. And that Monday morning when I went to the facility and they thought she was still at the ER, I said, she won't be back.
Wow.
I will not be bringing her back. And we made a decision, on the spot. It wasn't anything that was planned out. It's just, I can't bring her back. My mother is loved and she deserved better care than this.
Yeah. So let's take it down to the level of, with it being on the spot like that, what kind of conversation did you and your husband have? How did that play out?
This is my mom and she deserves better than this. We've got to bring her back to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And
the
that
reason
was
I
it.
asked,
We didn't even
the reason I asked that is because, life is real, right? And it's not any disrespect of how much you do or don't love someone. It's like, that's hardcore, like in your face stuff. And so I'm just curious, some marriages are strong, some are not, some are in between, some it depends on the day, which way the wind's blowing. So that's real life stuff. Because you also, on top of that, you've got a grandchild.
I have
Correct?
several. We have several.
Right, but you had the
5.
youngest,
Yeah, the
your
youngest
youngest
one
grandson.
was about to be born. Yes.
Right. So as far as life goes, you've got this, interesting situation here of you're expecting a new grandson at any day. And then that happens on top of the fact of you thinking you found a solution for your mother.
Right.
You've got her in a community, and then you start realizing the pros and cons of that. The weight tilted to the negative side of that experience. You're going, oh, wait a minute. I don't want this for my mom. This is not the right place for her for whatever reason. And not to get off on this topic too far, it's maybe for another show. That's one of the challenges going on in the industry, especially as a placement agent.
It's short-handed.
Yes. So COVID changed everything for the worse. So a lot of people, left the profession, et cetera. You've got a lot of investing companies coming in and purchasing these communities, looking at the bottom dollar, and they start slashing costs at the most important places, which affects the situation. So that's a whole nother topic. But getting back to where
you're exactly right.
Yeah. So it puts people like yourself and families that have to make those like, wait a minute. I thought we found her a good place. And then that happens. And then you're realizing, hey, my mom's not going to go out like this. Right. So you make that decision on the fly pretty much. And all of a sudden you're coming home with your mother. So just kind of take people like the reality of life. You get back and okay, you're in your home. What room?
So Mark, I'm going to share this tad bit. So, you said marriages, sometimes they're strong, they're in between. We were actually having some issues, right?
Okay.
And so, bringing my mother, it kind of brought us back together. If that makes sense.
Yes. Oh yeah, it does. Now, right. So that could have made or break, right? That could have made it go even the other direction.
Either direction, right? So it made us stronger.
So how long had you been married at that point in time?
6 years.
Okay, so all right. So the good thing is that ended up being a blessing. So that's a good thing. So where did y'all, do you have a ranch, a split level, 2-story, 3-story? What?
So Mark, I mean, it's crazy. So what happened? So we had a ranch,
Okay.
but we were living with my daughter because we were helping
Okay.
her. So we brought my
Oh,
mom, right. So we brought my mother into the house with my daughter and her two children because her husband had passed. And so
oh,
we were living in Augusta, and we were in between Augusta and Atlanta. We would be in Atlanta during the week, Augusta on the weekend.
wow.
And then right, helping my daughter, because she was a full-time in school full-time, and then she had a 4-year-old at the time and was expecting, and her
Jeez.
husband had passed. So we were in Atlanta, right, helping her. Then I went off to Maryland to help care for my sister the last 2 months of her life. And then
Jeez.
I got back in August. And so when I got back in August is when, by October is a few months later, I brought my mom back.
Okay.
So I guess I was in caregiving mode.
Yeah. So how, with that being the case, that even takes it to another person involved. How did your daughter think about that? Showing up, here we are, bringing grandma.
Right. Who has
Yeah,
dementia. Yeah. It didn't go very well.
okay, that's a good point. Like that's even an extra added important point, is your mom had
Hmm.
dementia, right?
Yeah.
So that in
Hmm.
itself, uh, by itself,
Right.
is a massive load. Okay, so let's kind of take yourself through that settling in. You made the decision, uh, you're committed, and then that becomes your uh, new life's purpose.
Hmm.
How did it affect you professionally?
Well, professionally, I wasn't able to go back to work. So I didn't work at all because she
Yeah,
needed, so you can imagine in a facility they have multiple people, multiple shifts that care for memory care patients. I am one person.
yeah,
So I had to be round the clock. So I couldn't work. Not even, people, can you work from home? No, I couldn't work from home because I cooked all her meals all 3 times a day, as well as, I would, when I first
wow,
got her, I would give her meds, and get her up to go to the restroom every 2-3 hours. So that meant all night. So I wasn't getting any sleep. And then I had to adjust because I was trying to keep the schedule that the facility had, but I
okay.
was one
Mm,
person and I couldn't
one
keep
person.
I
Yeah,
couldn't keep that
you didn't
schedule
have someone coming in for the next shift. You were 24/7.
24/7. So I ended up having to readjust our schedule so that I could, um, and so we ended up having to, would try all kinds of depends that would be more absorbent, to get
Mm-hmm.
us through a few more hours at night. Um, but because we had changed her environment, she would be up and, wander, so therefore, I've got to be, on the spot. So I learned different techniques.
Yeah.
Um, well, my daughter, before she delivered it, we brought mom at the end. It was October 31st, November 1st. My daughter moved out December 15th. So she was already moving into her own place, another place.
Mm-hmm.
And so she moved out. And so now we're there just with my mother. But we ended up having ring cameras throughout the
Mm-hmm.
house. We had one in her bedroom, one in the living room, one on the front door, one on the back door, so that we could watch. It would help me with her movement, like when she would
Yeah.
be up, and I could jump up and kind of redirect,
Yeah.
no matter what time of day or night it was.
Isn't it crazy how when you start doing stuff like that, you don't, and maybe this question is to carry over into now, because
Hmm.
the question I'm about to ask you, am I correct when I say you're starting to realize as you decompress, you don't realize not just anxiety, but the level of awareness you were always on alert without
Mhm.
realizing it,
Mhm.
because you started getting so accustomed to having to listen out for things, the Ring cameras. The interesting
Mhm.
thing about cameras in the house, because we have them in our house, sometimes you forget they're there. You know,
Yes,
it's
but
like
we had it so sensitive, so if she moved her foot,
you're
because we had
okay.
to, the ring camera
Yeah.
would go off. So you can think about it. And even now, so it's been a month. She's been
Mm.
past a month, and I'm still not sleeping through the night
Yeah.
because my body hasn't adjusted to
Adjusted to it.
not being able to. I mean, I still hear every little sound because I
Uh,
got for a whole year, I was used to um being accustomed to listening for the different sounds, different
Even
movements.
when you were asleep, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
so if she moved her foot or she moved the cover, the ring camera went off because we had
Uh,
it directed directly, at her.
yeah.
And so I would, look at the camera to see if she's trying to get up because
Yeah.
she was a fall risk.
All
Okay.
right.
So therefore, if she was trying to get up, one of us needed to be there,
Yeah.
and then in the end, it got to be where it took both of us
Yeah.
because, she stopped walking, her mobility, went down. And so it took both of us.
Yeah. So for people that are maybe watching or see this, and it doesn't matter when they see this, someone is maybe already in the phase of caregiving, or they find themselves in the position you faced with a decision has to be made one
Mhm.
way or the other. Um, with that being said, what's some things you can share uh, to people so they can see that they're not alone with the thoughts that they have? Because I know that everything wasn't peaches and cream. There had to be the times and moments of just overwhelming stress, maybe fighting off some animosity, bitterness, thoughts, devils
Mhm.
attacking the mind
Right.
types of things. So maybe share some of those things that could, help someone overcome of how you kind of overcame those attacks.
And so one of the things, so several things that I did. So being a caregiver, of course, now I'm, like I missed lots of doctor's appointments. You kind of put yourself on the back burner because you have to, unless you have additional help. But what I
Right.
will say is, um, I joined the wellness company back in February of this year, and they have something called Mellow Out. And every night I would drink warm the Mellow Out. The Mellow Out has magnesium and it has calming um, effect. So I would drink that every night. I take supplements be, that helps with the emotional, and not to mention
Mm.
that I am also menopausal, right?
Right. little extra, like extra emotions involved.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what I had to do was I took on the holistic approach to help me. So, but there would be some days if I didn't feel good, um, I still had to care for my mother. And I was thinking about this coming up to today's show. Caregiving, a caregiver, someone that's about to approach this, if they've ever been a parent or a mother
Mm.
that has given birth, think about you're embarking on having like a newborn,
Yeah.
and how that newborn needs you, all of you, no matter how you feel, no matter what you're going through, that newborn needs you,
Mm.
all of you.
Yeah.
That's the same way with taking care of someone with elderly parent with dementia and Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
um it's along the same level. They
Yeah.
need all of you.
And I'm asking you this from a personal standpoint, to where, like I've acknowledged and said, I by no way can even begin to compare the situation my family is with my parents, like, you and your husband, um, with her living with you. Um, so especially when with the dementia with the mind,
Mhm.
And so just like the other night, I keep my phone with me all the time, right? In
Mhm.
case, because I'm on like I said, I'm on a flag lot behind them, so I'm very close. And the things that press your buttons, right? Those things that really push you to the breaking point of frustration, to where um, have the phone all the time, and of all times, I actually we have a sauna,
Mhm.
so I went to get in the sauna, and my phone rings, and it's mom or dad calling because of the ringtone. I have a certain ringtone. It wasn't 12 minutes later; it's ringing again. And so what mom almost forgets what, she'll, if you don't answer the phone, I guess to her, 12 minutes is, 5 hours.
Your lifetime.
And she'll call back. Um, and you can't have just a conversation, like, it's like, hey, is everything okay? It's like, where were you? And you're like, well, I was, I didn't say sauna. She wouldn't comprehend what I'm talking about. So I said,
Right.
I was tied up. Is everything okay? She goes, yeah, well, I called and I didn't get you. And I said, well, mom, you didn't really have time to call you back. You called so quick. And then it just started, all of a sudden I realized it's fixing to go down this weird
Right.
path.
Right. Because they get frustrated
They get
easily.
frustrated very easily.
Mhm.
And so, hang on. Hello, Kim. And Tanya Bird said, good evening. So hello to Tanya and Kim. Thanks for your comments. But anyway, how did you and your husband, with her living there, how did you handle those moments when you just kind of needed your own moment? Like,
My husband, when I because there were several occasions, because my mom was also she would try to be physical with me.
okay,
And of course, I have to protect me, right?
yeah,
Because I have to care for it. And 10 minutes later, she won't even remember that she was trying to fight me. So
and
he
you
would,
haven't forgot.
mm-mm, no. And it could be one of those days where it happened, one of those days where I was just tired. I didn't feel good and it was
Right,
way too much. My husband's
yeah,
like, baby, just why don't you get in the car and just go to the store? Just go grab
right,
you like some potato chips or a soda, or go take a walk. He would say, go
yeah,
go take a walk. Take a breather,
yeah,
is what he would say. And then if it was just the two of us, I never forget one day we were out, running errands, and it was just too much for me.
mm,
And I literally took the keys, parked the car, got out, walked in a shopping center across the shopping center, called her nurse because she was under hospice care, called the hospice nurse and said, hey, look, this is getting to be a bit much.
yeah,
But my son was with us, but he was he was at a dental appointment.
right,
And dropped him off and was running some errands. And so when he came out, because we were going back and forth because she was saying she drives. And I said, no, mommy, you don't drive. And
mm.
so when he came out, she was in the driver's seat and
Oh
he had to,
Lord,
but she didn't have keys, but she had gotten out the car, got in the driver's seat. But I could see the car when I walked across the parking lot, but I had to separate myself in
mm.
order not to handle it incorrectly, right?
Right, yeah,
Because I'm human,
of course,
and
that's what, yeah,
I also have a temper,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And that's what's hard to reel in. And I think that's what's a good thing to talk about this and to bring it up to, like, we're I mean, duh, we're all human.
Mhm.
So no matter how much we love someone, no matter how big our heart is, there's just some days that you're just like, what? So this gets into uh, something that I think about, that I want to ask you, and I know it's things that other people think about, and I think it's an important question, and I think your answer is going to be super important,
Okay.
because it's easy to feel like you're in a situation that's never going to end.
Mhm.
Like, what have I taken on? What have I done? Uh, where'd my life go?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it is demanding.
It's very demanding.
It's very demanding. And so fast forward, your mom's passed.
Yeah.
And so I'm just saying, personally speaking, me getting aggravated over that situation the other night, this too shall pass.
This too shall pass.
And if God gives me the days, I could still die before my parents.
You could.
But if God gives the days and nature takes its course, that plate will be served to me and my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to find myself like, why did I, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that this too shall pass, what was it like losing your mom after that level of caretaking for that many years, and all of a sudden it's over? And I know you've had to have some tremendous deep thoughts.
Right. And what I will say is, I didn't have any regrets because I know that I gave her excellent care and at an exceptional level. So I didn't have any regrets. The only regret that I did have was that I didn't get to care for her when she was up, and when her memory, before her memory got to be as bad, and before she declined health wise, that I didn't get to spend more time with her, because she lived 3 hours away, and I had my family here, she lived there, and that I didn't get to spend more time with her when she was up and mobile. But what I will say is, one of the things that I think about now is that in the last week, the last 2 weeks, it began to be too much for me. And I shared my heart with God that it was too much for one person, because she was no longer, she was basically bedridden. And, she refused to use the restroom like in the diaper. I was like, Mom, you got, so I would, physically lift her out of the bed by myself when my husband was at work, because he worked, and put her on a bedside toilet, and then, and so those last 2 weeks, I began, to cry out to God that it was, maybe, it's time for me to do something different, because she's at a level that is beyond just me.
Yes. Yes.
And
Well, Val, in all fairness, and much love to you, that had happened already a couple years past.
yeah.
Your love allowed you to be, to say, bullheaded, to be disciplined enough to not let that stop you. So,
Well, you know what I followed, Mark? Colossians 3:23. That's what I stood on. And I would share with my mom, I'm not doing this unto you. I'm doing this unto God.
Wow.
And I would say that often. And I had to speak Colossians 3:23 often to help me.
Yeah. That's strong. Yeah. Well, Tanya made a good comment, and then Kim as well.
Sorry.
So does it show you a?
So I'm in, let me exit full screen.
Do you
so maybe
comments on? I don't know if it shows you or not, to be honest. I'm not sure. But Tanya said, how do you get over no one wants to help you with your parents when you're tired? And that is a big one, because Jeff and I, we deal with that when you're trying to help a family with placement, or trying to help them through all the decisions and all the stuff they need to do. there seems to be the Val of the group, the doer, the one that shows up, the one that does the heavy lifting, and then
Mhm.
you got the one that yang 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 and just
Mhm.
fusses that you're not doing it right, but they're not doing a thing to help. So
Right.
with Tanya, that's a very good thing that Tanya mentioned is, did you experience any of that?
Absolutely. That
Mm,
nobody helped but me and my it was me and my husband. And he
wow.
worked. So and I tried not to pull on him, you know, as much in the beginning, but in the end I had no choice. So he would have to help me change mom before he went to work. So at
Wow.
5 in the morning, 5 a.m., he's up helping me change her because she's too heavy for me to lift, you
Yeah.
know.
So obviously y'all never even got a lift. Never even
Mhm.
got any kind of equipment to even help. You
I
must
would
you,
tell
you
we
must
got
be
some
strong.
we got some equipment.
I'm
No.
not gonna wrestle you. You got
So I could tell you right now, and so this is what I was sharing with my brother. I was sharing with someone, yes, I'm about to get back into the job workforce. But before I do, in those last couple of weeks, that last month, I hurt my shoulder and my
oh,
knee
okay.
based on how I was lifting her and pivoting.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
hurt my shoulder. And so now I've been going to the chiropractor, but um I don't know, maybe I need to see an orthopedic,
yeah, yeah,
doctor, because it's just not getting better, I guess, fast enough for me.
yeah,
But I did injure myself, right? Because I'm not that strong.
yeah.
Dead weight is beyond crazy
Oh,
on
it
trying to
is
live.
it is crazy
Yes.
heavy. Um, but Kim
Right.
made a point. She said many caregivers lose sight of their life when the care comes to an end. They can be
Mhm.
lost on what to do with themselves. So rebuilding a life and moving forward can be daunting. It takes a minute. So obviously, that's the season you're in today. And
Right.
Kim speaking from experience with what she went through with the loss of her husband, and
Hmm.
so with that being said, um, with it still being fresh, to where, if you don't mind, share some of the experiences you're having trying to refine yourself, mourn your mother, reflect back on all the years of sacrificial giving and caretaking, and now trying to redivert that energy, heal properly, mourn properly, and now look forward to where the next steps in your life.
Yes. So right now, what I would say is, um, so for me, there are some days when I don't want to be in the house
Mm, okay.
because when I walk past her room, it's empty.
Mm, it's all right, sweetie. It's
So
okay.
I find things to do outside of the house,
Mm,
or I stay in the room in my bedroom,
mm.
so I don't have to walk past her bedroom. Excuse me.
It's okay, Val. It's sort of like, when you spend as much time that you spent with your mother, it wasn't just a relationship. It was hardcore, hands-on, intimate involvement.
Right.
So it's not like, um, your mom passed and she was at a young enough age, she still lived at her own house, and you saw her, a couple times a week or whatever. Not
Right.
that it's still not impactful, but it's crazy the energy that we all have as human beings, right?
Right.
So you're sensing your mom's spirit and her energy is no longer in the house. So you feel that.
Hmm.
You feel it when you pass the room. You feel the
Hmm.
void. So not just the void, the energy of the room, but then it's the void in your heart. And
Right.
it's also the purpose that you had, and the the role that you were fulfilling.
Hmm.
And I hope I hope that God lets you know in your heart how proud you should be of yourself, Val, and how proud of your husband to be with you. I know there was times, I know there was days. I know,
Mm-hmm.
but be proud that you did well. And you did, girl. You really and truly did. So if that helps at all when those moments of pain come in, is just know that you did well. You gave your mom some beautiful days because of being there for her. You made
Mm-hmm.
her quality of life far above and beyond. I don't think that you can even imagine. Even I know her mind wasn't fully there or not, but the spirit knows.
Well, just in those last few days, one of the things that really touched me was she told me I was wonderful.
Wow. Mm, wow.
And it let me know that it was okay.
Right. What and Tanya said she's praying for your healing as well as Chris. Um, what if you don't mind, and if you don't want to go this way, this is fine. But what was the final couple of weeks? When did you know that the time was coming? What kind of
Um,
things did you see?
she completely so at first it started being that she stopped walking in September, at the end of September. Then it started being she didn't want breakfast. And so it
Okay.
would just move to she would just eat lunch and a little dinner. My mom had
Mm,
a really good appetite.
okay.
And then it moved to where she was only eating maybe once a day. And then it moved to so the last, couple of weeks, she would only eat like applesauce, mashed potatoes, like a baked sweet potato, those
Hmm.
type of things that were easy to swallow. And then it started being where she couldn't swallow those. She wouldn't eat those
Oh
things.
wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah. And I didn't realize it when she stopped eating. I stopped eating.
Mm,
She wasn't eating. I wasn't eating either. I didn't
okay.
realize it, but it was like, my main thing, it was, and then, one night, one early morning, but no, it was early morning. It was like mid morning. And, I thought at that time she wasn't. I was giving her liquid through a syringe, so she wasn't even able to drink. But I thought she wanted more based on how I was giving it to her with the syringe. And I went and got the little cup that you rinse your mouth out at when you brush your teeth,
Hmm.
and was giving her water with that, and she started choking, and it
Okay.
scared the daylights out of me. And
Yeah.
Chris was right there. He was like, "Don't do that again." And so the nurse said, even if it seems as if she wants to, drink more, just continue with the syringe, not try to give it to her with a
Give it
cup.
a gotcha.
Yeah. It was November the 2nd. Um, I was up all night with her. I slept in the room. I literally was up all night with her, holding her hand, because at the end the nurse put in a catheter that would help me not have to
Okay.
change and lift her as much.
All right.
And she was trying to pull the catheter out. She had pulled it out twice. So,
Jeez.
I yes. So I was up with her all night. I literally really had my hand on hers, and I had I was sleeping like this, and sitting next to her bed. Because we didn't bring in a hospital bed probably until sometime in October.
Okay.
So when she became immobile and bedridden, we end up having to bring the hospital bed because it was easier to maneuver to be on one side of the bed and the other, when we would have to, move her. And I had all kinds of, I still have all these things. I've been looking for someone to donate them to, little mats that have the handles around that we could lift her and pull her. Because when I would get her out of the bed by myself, I would put her, like closer to the foot, and then go to the head of the hospital bed and take the handles and
Mm,
pull her whole body up, back to the
right.
head. But it would be November 2nd. And then the nothing we did could calm her. My god sister came, Tony Petty. She came. Um, I literally had to call a cousin, put her on FaceTime because I needed to use the bathroom. That's how
Wow.
critical
Okay.
it got in
Yeah.
the end.
Yeah.
And said,
Yeah.
can you talk to her and watch her while I go to the bathroom?
Wow.
And I would tuck the sheet down beside her so she would, have
She
to
couldn't
try to
move as much. Yeah.
fidget to get it loose. And by that time, it would give me enough time to run back, from the restroom back to the room. And I would say my god sister Tony Petty was a lifesaver for me. Um, those last few weeks because she would come midday, even if it was for an hour, just so I could eat something, go to the bathroom, take a shower, brush my teeth, wash my face. That's how, in the
Woo.
end, how consuming it was. But that November 2nd, when her hospice nurse came, um, she said to me, um, would it be okay if we have space in our in-care unit um, to take her so we could get her settled and get her come back? She can come back home, once we get her, to a point. And I said, you know what? I broke down and said, yes. I said, it is okay. I
Mm.
said, because this is beyond me. I can't stay up 24 hours and be good for her. And I can't be good for me, and definitely couldn't be good for my husband, you
Yeah.
know. And so I agreed. And so that Friday, November 3rd, she went to inpatient unit at the hospice facility. And that was a Friday. And by Monday morning at 6 a.m., she passed, November
Wow.
6th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
So what I would suggest to any caregiver, if I would check with, first of all, I would definitely go through a hospice um, program. In August, we changed hospice providers 3 times
okay.
because respite care was important for me.
Sure.
And every hospice company I, interviewed, I made sure they understood respite was important for me because it was just me and my husband. And those 5 days a month I needed in
Yeah.
order to rejuvenate and to so that I could spend the next 25, 26 days of the month caring for her. And so I would tell any caregiver, if your loved one has a terminal illness or memory care and they can qualify for hospice, I would suggest them getting on a hospice service. It doesn't mean that they're at the end of life.
Right. Yeah. That's
And it
yeah.
provides and utilize respite because if they're on Medicare, Medicare pays for 5 days a month. The caregiver can get 5 days a month. I also, um, I don't work for Humana, but I know that Humana offered, out of the insurance companies, had the best VBID services. And
Hmm.
VBID services are those services for that deal with hospice things. And so Humana has a plan that has 80 hours of in-home personal care,
Mm.
meaning that someone will come in, and as long as it deals with that family member, they will care for them, and that give the caregiver a break. That
Yeah.
means you can have, they have to come in increments of 4 or 8 hours. So sometimes I would get someone on the weekends, on Saturday and Sunday, to come in at 4 hours for 4 hours, even if it meant Chris and I just ran some errands or went
Yeah.
and grabbed a bite to eat to get out of the house. But they would send a nurse. They also offered, so they have a plan that has those 80 hours plus. Humana Hospice team also offers 40 hours. So that's a total of 120 hours of in-home. That has nothing to do with your hospice facility that you sign up with.
Mm.
That's just through your insurance, which allows the caregiver more time outside of those 5 days. And literally, I didn't utilize all of my hours. Mom ended up passing, and I still had hours left
Mm.
to utilize, because I only utilized them if it was necessary. You know what I'm saying? I didn't just use them because we had them.
Had them, yeah.
Yeah, I would
Yep.
take advantage if I had to go to the doctor, or if Chris and I made plans to be somewhere, you know, it might be 4 hours or 8 hours, but it was always on a Saturday or Sunday, because Monday through Friday, a CNA from the hospice team came just to give her bath. And then
Mm.
her nurse came twice a week. So I didn't want to utilize my Humana hospice
Right.
VBIT services during the week,
Yeah.
because, you know, I already had the hospice unit. So I would say make sure you, if any insurance company that you're on, ask them about their hospice VBID services. VBID is the name that you want to know, and make sure that if you have a family member that's under memory care or terminal illness, you want to make sure that you want to get all of the information about the VBID services that their insurance provider offer.
Mm. Well, I wanted to also make a point to where anybody that comes across or watches this, Kim Poor made a point. You can also work with an end of life doula. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are not aware of doulas,
Mm-hmm.
and they offer great services as well. But it's back to as far as if you need any help getting rid of the supplies or stuff you have.
Mm-hmm.
Kim had mentioned and reminded us, some nursing home or senior centers, maybe, but even the senior niche that you went to. You can go to and post it on the group there. There may be
Okay.
somebody there. So Val, to kind of wrap up, what would be some takeaways, some of the most important things that you think would be good to share that you've learned from your experiences for those that are entering caretaking, those that are in the middle of caretaking, or those that have just lost their loved one and are going through what you've gone through? What kind of things can you share and leave that may could encourage and help someone that you may have learned and found strength from?
The first thing, if someone is, the first thing I would say is make sure that you have, what helped me is have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Having my quiet time, I had to learn that I had to get up. It's just, again, like having a newborn baby. You got to get up before them in order to read, to pray, to worship. Some days I would just blast worship music
Mm.
to set the atmosphere in the home. If my mom was having a bad day, and then with memory patients, they have sundowning.
Sundowning.
Hmm.
Okay.
And it does something when the sun goes down. It does
Okay.
something with them mentally,
Okay.
and they act erratic.
Okay.
But those days that it rains or it's cloudy, my mom would sundown all day long.
Wow.
And so I had to learn. I would play worship music,
Okay.
um, and also I would share with a caregiver in the beginning stage. So with mom, because she had accidents and we had carpet, I put down. There's a painter's plastic that you could put down on the
Right.
floor, and it's sticky on one side. I
Yep.
put that down all in over the room, so that
Okay.
because sometimes when she would get up, she would already, be having an accident. She would be
Sure.
leaking through.
Right.
I would share that. I would say I turned her dresser in her bedroom around backwards. I
Okay.
only gave her minimal access to things. And this is just for memory care. So
Sure.
I can't tell you about somebody who's, terminally ill, but I can tell you about memory care.
Yeah.
I put my clothes in the closet, because, sometimes they get up in the middle of the night and pack their things that they're going home, or they're leaving. So I swapped out, had her clothes in my closet and my clothes in the closet in the room where she was. Um, so we kept all remotes. So she had a TV in her room, but we didn't leave remotes where she could access them, because they hide things.
Mm.
I didn't even allow her to have her shoes in her room.
Okay.
because she would put them on, say, I'm leaving, because in her mind, I put my shoes on, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn that, took her, her shoes weren't in there. Um, Someone that's in the middle of caregiving, I would say make sure that you're taking care of your mental and emotional. What I would say is there needs to be more support groups for caregivers,
Mm-hmm.
um, that that are that don't cost. I don't know
Right.
it, and I
Okay.
didn't learn that Rosalind Carter, had a caregivers um what do you
It's
call
like
it?
a group or
Yes,
association
that
or
yes, that because she was so big on caregiving. I didn't even know that. But I do know that caregivers, they need a support group that they can do virtually. Because if you're a caregiver, you may not always be able to go somewhere. But it needs to be more for caregivers need a village.
one of the takeaways I get is I'm a member of a couple of groups, for caregivers or stuff. Excuse me. And I think what really is, and I know I'm not speaking out of turn because I see way too many comments, especially
Okay.
if they do anonymous, post or whatever.
Mhm.
There is so much bitterness and animosity amongst people
Mhm.
that maybe didn't even get along with their loved one, whether it's mother, father, grandparent, whoever, sibling, and they are just angry about where they find themselves.
Mhm.
So that gets back to how much I respect you and people like yourself, because I think you'd agree to say it's one of the hardest things someone can do.
It is.
And
It
so
is.
what's crazy is we've got such a bad situation out here because the cost of care is astronomical.
It's astronomical.
It's like as we speak on a different, my sister-in-law is in the hospital
Mhm.
and she's got a special needs child. Taylor's 26 years old,
Mhm.
nonverbal, still
Mhm.
in diapers.
Mhm.
So the stress that Amy's under is ungodly. And Amy wears it well. Amy doesn't really, uh, she's strong.
Mhm.
She may not feel like she's strong,
But
but
she's
people
strong.
like people like Amy, people like you are incredibly strong. That you don't realize how strong you are. You don't realize what you're enduring,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So when you sit there and you're trying to help a family navigate to where they're like, okay, we don't have the wherewithal or the ability, whether we want to or not, we can't afford to quit our job and stay at home and take care of our loved one. And so you're helping them try to find a place. And depending on the level of care they need, it's really intimidating how expensive it is. And
Mhm.
then it's a matter of finding the right place. And that gets back to, what we touched on earlier is so many of these communities are being gobbled up and they're slashing cost in
Mhm.
the most important areas. So it falls back on families and people like yourself. And,
Right.
again, it's a lot.
Mhm.
So um, I hope that some things that have been shared here can touch someone's heart and give them the strength and the ability to soldier on.
Mhm.
Because and I pray for you and your family as you continue to heal and recover. It takes you some time to find your footing
It does.
again. So you've been under the gun for quite some time. But I want to
Yes.
thank you, Val, so much for taking the time to come on here and share your story and all. And of course, you and I will be talking more, and
Absolutely.
hopefully, some good things will be coming for us to continue a future together to make a difference in people's lives. Um, Hats off to your husband. Give him a high five for me,
I
and, and
will.
I and I hope that you guys find some good days this Christmas season, and you can have some good memories, Val, and just when the sadness comes, when you walk by the room, my words to you is don't flee those moments, and maybe just have the courage to take a deep breath, focus on God, and go in there and just sit in the room
Yeah,
and just have good thoughts, have good
absolutely.
memories, and just know you did well, Val.
Thank you. Thank you so
So
much. And thank you so much for having me come back on. I look forward to partnering with you, on spreading the word about caregivers and
there's a lot of
the
people need
need.
help out there, girl.
Yes,
So,
yes,
and so you come from the front line, so you can take that, and God can use those experiences to really impact some lives, because people need all the help they can get.
absolutely.
So, anything you want to add before we sign off here?
Um, Thank you so much for having this platform. Remember, caregivers need a village. Caring for a loved one, it's doable. Um,
Mm,
you just have to learn the tips and just learn some tips and tricks, on how, especially for memory care patients. There are so many. I would love to on Tonda Speaks. One of the things that I'm going to be sharing is with caregivers on how to set the room up, how to have your home
wow. Okay.
just so that it's and I do Tonda Speaks from I have a Facebook Live page. It's a private group
Okay.
because we share Tonda Speaks, we heal from the inside out while overcoming life obstacles.
Mm,
I started Tonda Speaks back in 2019
okay.
because we have to learn how to heal
Yeah.
from the inside out so that you can overcome life obstacles.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, good deal. Well, I wish you and your family a Merry Christmas. Thank you once
Merry
again.
Christmas.
Thanks for the people that supported and watched the show, and for your comments. And wish everybody a Merry Christmas. And until next time, we will see you later.
Thank you so much, Mark.